If you're struggling to build your social media to a point where you're consistently getting work online from just random strangers on the internet, then this can make you almost very envious of other people online. Those people that have tens of thousands of followers who seem to be absolutely crushing it. And to you, an outsider, it can seem like an absolute mile away between you and getting to that position. It can be really frustrating. So today I want to sort of give you the one big action step that's going to help you take that leap and start really building your online presence. I've tried to set up multiple businesses in the past related to the audio world before these two businesses that I've currently got, and they all failed. They were all the online presence for those businesses prior to these two that I've got now were terrible. I didn't get any engagement. I really struggled to build followers. And I even resorted at one time to actually buying followers, which looking back on, I'm pretty ashamed of doing. But I just found it really frustrating and really difficult to break through that barrier. It's only when I learned the right things to do, especially with creating content, that with these two businesses I've got now, I've achieved slow, consistent and steady growth for the social medias of both my current businesses. So one of the main ways I've achieved this is through content, and this is what I'm going to be talking about today, how you as an aspiring professional musician can start implementing content into your business and use that to build your online following. So content is single-handedly the best way to build your online presence, and here's why. Number one is it adds value to your audience. It solves your audience's problems. The same people that are going to be coming to you for a service, it solves those same people's problems. And that brings me on to the second point, is because it does this, it also builds trust with them. So when you're solving people's problems and you're showing that you're good at what you do because you're helping people with your content, this builds trust. And trust is one of the three vital elements you need in order for somebody to want to hand over their cash to work with you on a project. Thirdly, if you're doing your content right, it shows off your skills and knowledge as well. If you are releasing all these YouTube videos and tutorials and just topics of things you're really knowledgeable about, that clearly shows that you're good in that area and that you know what you're doing. And this also builds trust as well. The last big point about content being so good for you and your business is that it's evergreen in most cases. And what I mean by this is when you post it, it stays online forever. If you post a YouTube video, that's going to stay there until you delete it. If you post a blog onto your website, that's going to be in Google forever. And what this does is it gives people more opportunity to come across and to find you online. If you're putting out just Facebook posts and Instagram stories and stuff like that, these don't appear anywhere else but those platforms. And after a day, nobody's going to see that post again. If you're posting content onto YouTube, if you're posting blogs, if you're releasing a podcast or something like that, then that is going to be there forever. And the more content you put out, the more chance you have showing up in someone else's space and them discovering you. And it's only when this starts to happen where Google and YouTube will start showing your content to even more people, and then you start exponentially getting more people over to your space, start getting more views, and that's where your audience really will start to grow. So now I'm going to give you 3 steps to start creating your own content, plus a whole load of really key important points at the end to really drive this home and give you all the information you need to literally get off this video and start creating content straight away. So number 1, we're going to talk about the type of content. What type of content should you release? Well, in an ideal world, you should be doing a mixture of different types of content, basically. I like to split it up into 3 main categories, which I've already kind of mentioned. That is blog posts, YouTube videos, and podcasts. So it all depends on where your strong point is with your communication. Are you a good talker? Do you not like condensing what you say down? Are you one of those people that ramble on and like to ramble on and like to go into detail with stuff? Then maybe a podcast is good for you. If you have good face-to-face communication skills, if you have a cool, quirky personality, and that really does show when you're on video, then maybe YouTube will be better for you. If you're good at writing, you're not good on the spot in front of a camera, and you're better just sitting down and writing 10,000 words into a really helpful blog post, then obviously blog posts are going to be the way to go for you. But I recommend just doing a handful of each, trying different things out. Talking to a camera has never, ever, ever been my strong point. And maybe you can see it now in this video, who knows, but I'm trying to push myself out my comfort zone with this YouTube channel to do something a bit different and to sort of learn on the job, if you like. And don't stop yourself from trying to do that as well. If you want to push yourself out your comfort zone and try something new that you would never usually try, then that might unlock a certain skill that you never knew you had. So if you want to alternate between a blog post one week and a YouTube video the other week, that's personally what I did when I first started out. Then, by all means, go for it. You may find out after a few months that one thing's doing really well and another thing isn't. And that's a sign for you to then go down that route and forget about the other thing. Secondly, how often should you post content? Well, I recommend at a bare minimum once a week. Once a week is the golden amount because it's not too often to the point where you're going to struggle to keep up that level of posting, and also it is often enough for you to keep putting yourself out there and keep letting Google's SEO and YouTube's algorithms work for you. So you don't want to be posting not enough where it's not really doing anything for you. So once a month, for example, or once every 2 weeks, that is not quite enough. But also, if you commit to twice a week, then that is a hell of a commitment, and you're gonna have to make sure that you stay at that, because consistency is key with content. And once you commit to a certain amount of content per week or per month, then you need to stick to that. So make sure you don't overshoot it. You can always, double up on the content you do further down the line, which is what I did. But at the start, at the very least, just get into the habit of releasing consistent content. Don't miss a single week. Don't miss a single video or a podcast or blog. Make sure you keep it up on a consistent basis and just choose basically whatever posting schedule works for you. Thirdly, what should you talk about in your content? This is the main point. It's all right saying that you're going to do content, but if you're not doing the right kinds of content and you're not talking about the right things, then it's actually pointless putting all this time into it. Your content, your overarching theme of your content needs to directly tie in to the services you sell, and that needs to appeal to the exact same audience as well that your services appeal to. So for example, if you are a drum teacher online, you're an online drum teacher, and you sell online courses or you do Skype coaching or Zoom coaching lessons, then you are going to want to aim your content towards helping drummers improve their skills. So once you have this overarching topic, whether that's drum tutorials, whether it's going to be mixing tutorials, whether you're going to talk about music business, get that one single topic that you are going to focus on. Make sure it's broad, the one big main topic that sums up the services that you do. Once you've done that, you then need to split this main overarching topic into 4 subtopics. And I like to call these content buckets. From what I've learned off Graham Cochran, he's a business coach, and he taught me this principle where you split the main overarching theme that you talk about into 4 content buckets, 4 separate categories that you talk about that's going to help in separate areas of this main overarching theme. So for example, I educate professional musicians about music business, and my topics are split into getting more clients, websites and marketing, and then how to work less and earn more, so be more efficient. So those are my 3 content buckets, and you need to find a similar sort of strategy, similar sort of categories with your own content, 3 or 4 of the main categories that you can split your content into. Then once you've done this, ideally you've come up with 4 content buckets. I then recommend coming up with 13 post ideas or video ideas or just content ideas for each of your content buckets. So that's 13 times 4, which is 52, which means that you have got a piece of content a week planned out for the next year. So 13 topics about each category that you've come up with, each content bucket that you've come up with, is not too much to brainstorm about. And once you've done this, that takes a step out the process and making it hard for you to do content, because you shouldn't be sitting down every week thinking to yourself, what should I write about today? What should I talk about today? Because that's just another obstacle in your way, basically, another excuse for you to say when it comes to recording content. It's another excuse for you to just quit because you can't think of anything. If you commit now to coming up with 13 ideas for each of your 4 content buckets, create 52 ideas, then that is your content planned out for the next year. So now hopefully you've determined the type of content you're going to do, how often you're going to post it, and what you're going to talk about. Here are 3 very important points I also want you to take on board that are going to make or break your content. Point number 1, don't procrastinate, just start. It's easy for people to procrastinate and search for like gear, search for recording cameras, search how to do this, how to do that, and you're putting off actually doing it and coming up with all these fake things that you need to do before you start doing the content. It's easy done because creating content online and putting yourself out there is scary. I know that, but at the end of the day, you just need to do it. You need to just throw yourself in the deep end and correct course as you go, because in the end of the day, you don't learn until you do it. You need to have that experience, put yourself out there, start recording videos, get feedback of people, start to realize things yourself, and then start improving, because you're not going to improve just by sitting there and thinking about what may or may not happen. You're only going to improve by doing it. So get started, don't procrastinate. Secondly, I recommend batch recording your videos or batch writing your blog posts or podcasts or whatever it is you're doing. Don't sit down and set up your video rig every single week because that is very time consuming. And again, it's just another excuse for you to turn around and say, look, I don't have time to do this. It's too difficult. I'm going to give up. If you can set up your recording rig once a month, record 4 or 5 videos, then you have got 4 or 5 videos recorded. You can then edit them in the same day, and you can plan everything, all the titles, all your thumbnails for your videos, and essentially you can create a month's worth of content in a single day. Then you don't need to worry about it. It's all done for the month, and you can focus then on other things. Lastly, the naming or the title of your content will make or break it. The naming and the title needs to hook people in. It needs to really describe how the piece of content is going to help people and going to impact their lives in a positive way. By all means, don't do clickbait, don't make false promises, but you need to make sure that your title is eye-catching and that it promises that your audience will get a certain win within a certain time, and it needs to be achievable. Like I say, no weird clickbait, false promises, but you need to get across the benefit, what your audience will experience once they digest that content and put it into action. At the end of the day, the sooner you start with creating content, the quicker you're going to build your audience, because this whole process of building an audience online from creating content is fairly slow. It takes consistency, it takes dedication, but the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to get to where you want to be. So don't procrastinate. Don't keep thinking that people are just going to start randomly coming to you one day and something's just going to click, because without doing content, that's not going to happen, and you're not going to build the audience you want or the audience you need to start getting consistent work online.